It's your boy, Marcus Norman, your favorite gentleman of the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And today I have Mr. Christian de la Huerta, and he is a sought-after spiritual teacher, personal transformation coach, and leading voice in the breathwork community. He has traveled the world offering inspiring and transformational retreats, combining psychological and spiritual teachings with lasting and life-changing effects. He's also an award-winning, critically acclaimed author. He has spoken at numerous universities, conferences around the world, and the TedX stage. This man has written the book, Awakening the Soul of Power, which most authors and readers describe by multiple award-winning Grammy awardees, such as Gloria Estefan, as a balm for the soul of anyone searching for truth and answers to life's difficult questions. So help me introduce the man himself, Mr. Christian de la Huerta.
Hey, Malcolm.
Welcome to the stage, sir. I'm glad to have you. Round of applause.
Hey, Marcus.
Hey, sir.
See you, man.
Good to have
happy
you.
to be on the show.
This is good. This is great. I've been looking forward to this for the past 2 weeks now. 2 weeks. It's been a long time coming, sir. I can wait to dive deep about you and what you've been doing and your new book that is just changing the landscape on how we deal with ourselves and life in general, those hard to ask questions in life in general. But I want to start off first here. What is something that you do day in and day out that really sets the tone of your day? Something that you do daily that really okay, I'm going to have a great day today, or I'm going to make it a great today. What is that one thing that you do?
I'm so trained over the last 30 years that I've been doing this kind of personal work and personal transformation work from a psychological and spiritual perspective. So I do a couple of things. One is always be present, right? So always bring myself present to what's going on with me. What am I feeling, so that when I'm ready to deal with other humans, I'm doing it from a place of clarity, of balance, of equanimity. And the other thing that I'm always doing just by nature is gratitude. Like what am I grateful for? And that begins to shift my relationship to every part of my day.
Love that. What does soulful power mean to you? What is it? I have an idea of what that means to me, but what does that mean to you? What was your intention when you coined that concept?
All right, well, let's zoom out a little bit and start by saying that most of us have a conflicted or at least ambivalent relationship to power. Part of us wants it, part of us is afraid of it. And I think what we fear, Marcus, is that if we really stepped into all our power, if we really be all of who we are, that other people wouldn't be able to handle it, and we might end up rejected and alone. And who wants that? I think we also fear that we might abuse it. No wonder. All we got to do is turn on the news any given day or glance through the morning headlines online to witness at least one abuse of power. And also, who wants to be that way? And then add to that mix the fact that we've been conditioned to believe that power is a bad thing, power is a negative thing, with quotes like power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and who wants to be corrupted? What they didn't tell us, though, about that quote is that Lord Acton was speaking specifically about political power, not personal power. And so when you add to the mix the fact that we've been conditioned to be afraid of the emotions, we run away from conflict, we don't want to rock the boat. So what happens is that we stuff, we swallow, we give away our innate, inherent personal power. We say yes when inside we feel no. We stuff ourselves into small little boxes so as to not rock the boat. We override our true feelings, our preferences, our beliefs, and we settle for an illusion of security, a false sense of acceptance, and morsels of pseudo love. And so what this book talks about is that there is a way that we can step into our own power in a way that's not about hierarchy, control, fear, force, domination, in a way that doesn't require that we push anybody down, step on them, put our knee to their neck in order for us to prop ourselves up and feel powerful. And so one of the ways we do that is begin to realize that there's different kinds of power. So there's worldly power or ego power, the way that we normally think of power, and we tend to associate with people who have money or famous or high up in some kind of hierarchy, whether it's the corporate ladder or some religious organization or whatever. But the thing about all those kinds of power is that they're outside of us. They're external. So they could be here today, gone tomorrow. The other kind of power that I'm talking about is inside each and every one of us. And again, nobody can give it to us. Nobody can take it away. We're the only ones who give it away for all those kind of lame reasons that we do that. Understandable, but not effective reasons that we do that. And so that's what I call soulful power or spiritual power. It's inside each one of us. It's part of who we are. And so whereas worldly power always has an agenda, it's always trying to grab something for itself, always trying to blow itself up to seem bigger than it is. Soulful power is humble. It doesn't need to prove anything to anybody. And it's about service, about making a difference in this world. So think of a Gandhi or Dr. King or a Gandalf if you're into the Lord of the Rings, and their simple monastic robes, their sandal feet. Nobody would know what kind of power they hold until it's needed, and then get out of the way. Gandhi brought the British Empire to its knees without ever shooting a gun or landing a single punch. That's power.
I never thought about that, and we see it throughout life that I can almost relate that to influence. Men and women of influence carry themselves in a certain way, and they show that power, and they have that power without having to really tell you. A person of true influence doesn't have to remind you or tell you who they are. You know who they are just by the way they move throughout their day and their life. Can you talk about your personal journey and relationship with heroism and personal power? How did you discover this? How did you come across this concept? And now that you speak to it, you coached it. Where did it come from?
Well, I started thinking about this because I'm one of 9 kids. I come from a large family, and my older sister, who's about 2 years older than I am, when we were kids, she was like one of these natural born leaders. She would she would boss around not only the 9 of us, but the entire neighborhood of like 15, 20 kids, and not in a bossy way. She would just say, hey, let's go do that. And we would all say, hey, you're right, let's go do that. And when she hit puberty, Marcus, something happened. She turned that off. And I don't know if somebody said something to her, like little girls or women didn't behave that way, or whether she just picked it up from osmosis. But she turned it off, and she took on this kind of Mother Teresa persona. And that kind of just stayed in the back of my mind. And the more that I've worked with people over the last 30 years, the more that I realized that this is not just common to my sister, that a lot of women stuff their power. And it's really interesting because of some of the very same qualities that in a guy we look up to and say, wow, what a strong, decisive leader. In a woman, what do we call her? That 5-letter word that starts with a B. And I don't know how you feel about using that kind of word, but we all know what it is, right? It's the same qualities. Why is it so different when it comes to gender? And so then I started thinking about, well, what is power? And how do we relate to it? And why do we have conflicts about it? And how can we express it in a way that is a match for who we are? And again, that doesn't require this hierarchical power over approach. Because if I'm in my power, it's like, why would I be threatened by somebody else having power? Right? So that competitive, your power takes away from mine is a kind of a misunderstanding, and it comes from a belief that there's a limited amount of it. So then your having power is threatening to me. So I have to make sure that you don't have any power. And we can look at this individually, like interpersonally, or we can look at it socially, in terms of society and culture and the way that the world is dealing with power. So I think it's really important that we have this conversation and that we begin to shift and deepen our understanding about what power is and how we relate to it.
So true. So true. We have one quick commercial break, y'all. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Stay with us. We'll be right right back.
Support for Gentleman Style Podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world. Manscaped offers you precision engineering tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off free worldwide shipping with the code GENTSTYLE at manscaped.com.
Good day, podcast listeners. This is your boy, Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. I wanted to let you guys know that we will be rolling out a new feature and adding a join sponsor button next to the subscriber button here at the bottom of your screen. Once you click the button, it will display 3 membership levels. Gentleman Gentry, which is our entry level, Duke Duchess, which is our season level, and the Emperor and Empress, which is our most sophisticated level, which you will receive unique perks and benefits at each differing level and gain access to our community tab. We will also be sharing polls, upcoming events, and interviews, as well as receive feedback from our sponsors directly. Your support helps me find new and exciting guests to bring to the stage live. Well, in order to get the higher end speakers, it requires, some, you guessed it, money. So thank you for tuning in to my channel. And if becoming a sponsor sounds good to you, then select the join button below and choose your desired sponsor level. Let's continue to grow and serve the future of generations of men and women to come. Love you guys. Bye. We are back to the Gentleman Style Podcast Show, and we have Christian de la Huerta. And this man is speaking about his new book, The Awakening and Discovering Your Soul Power, your power, that personal power that we have within us. And he helps readers all over the world discover the power within themselves. Sir, I want to talk about the new book. I want to talk about this new book. What can readers expect from this copy? And I'm going to bring it here on the big screen so people can see this live and direct. So it's not made up. This is real life, and that we can get a copy today. But tell us about what can readers expect from this.
Well, I designed the book in a way that makes it very readable, because I know how busy everybody is, and I know how tired everybody is at the end of the day, and a lot of times, who wants to read a book? But it takes work, but it is so worthwhile, because if you want to have a chance at relationship, if you want your relationships to have a chance of working, if you want to have a sense of personal empowerment and to stop giving your power away and understand why we do the things we do, the patterns, the triggers that have us giving our power away. If you want to have a life that is filled with meaning and purpose, it's really important to be willing to do the work. And so I designed the book in a readable way. So I use the hero's journey as a way to structure it. I bringing examples from culture, from movies, from books, from history, that kind of thing. And I designed it with very short, readable chapters, so that all you have to do is read one a week. It'll take you 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, if it's with a slightly longer ones. But here it is. Take a little bit of extra time and do the practices, the power practices at the end, because those are the ones that are designed to make sure that those teachings, that those concepts don't stay at the level of, wow, great information. Because Marcus, we don't need more information. We've got information overload. What we need is transformation. We need our lives to change and to become better and more successful, and so that we can be happier and have the kind of relationships and lives that we really dream of. And that's why the practices are designed to do that, to make sure that we apply them to our lives and that they make a difference in our lives. And so I spent the whole first part of the book talking about the ego mind, which is really important to understand, how it works and how it limits us, how it keeps us in a self-made prison of fear and lack and defensiveness and victimization and judgment, reactivity. And again, is by becoming aware of our patterns and how the mind works, then we can make choices, and then we can let ourselves free of that self-made prison of the mind.
So true. So true. And I love the fact that you stated that in the age of information, there's so much information out there. To be ignorant and to not be aware of what's going on, or like what this book teaches is the power within us. That's a personal choice. You're choosing to not, you know, realize your own strength and harness that. And that's what you teach to. That's what you coach to. This isn't something that you have to go out and get and build. It's already in you. It's already inside
right in here.
So very little, and it's natural. Very little work required. It's natural. It's already inside of us. Thank you. Thank you for doing it. Go ahead.
Thank you for doing what you do, and thank you for having this kind of show that I know makes a lot of difference in a lot of different lives. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be here on the show with you, Marcus.
Yes, sir. Who is your target audience for this book? Does this specifically speak to men, or does it specifically speak to women? How can men and women benefit from awakening their soulful power? What are the gender specific things that you?
It's great. That's a really good, powerful question. It's for everybody because we all struggle with those issues. It has a particular message for women, and that comes from my belief that the empowerment of women is the single most important thing that needs to happen in our world. It's not to put women up on a pedestal. It's not to idealize women. Women also abuse power, but it's because as a world, as a species, we've been working very off balance, very off kilter where it comes to the balance between the masculine and the feminine energies for the last several thousand years. And that, by the way, is a reflection. That imbalance reflects our relationship to nature, where we have this kind of rape or pillage relationship to the earth. We take and we take and we take without even regard to our own survival. And by the way, COVID is a symptom of that imbalanced relationship to nature. And I believe that when women are in 50% of power, we don't want to go back to a matriarchal system like it used to be before the patriarchy. We want balance. And so when women are in 50% of balance, we're going to have a very different relationship to war and poverty and hunger and social justice and education and how we treat the environment, to all of it. So that's why I targeted to women. And I also have a chapter specifically for men, talking about what it means to be a man in the 21st century, because we're still running off very limited definitions, very old-fashioned definitions of what it means to be a man. And by the way, this patriarchal system of power over and this kind of, forgive my French, fuck or kill relationship to life and to living beings. Of course, women have paid a huge price for that. Because of the oppression of women that is still rampant in this world, the lack of equality between the genders. But the thing is, Marcus, that men are also paying a price for that patriarchal system. And here's why. Let's look at some numbers. Let's look at the rate of suicide. In the US, men commit suicide 4 times as frequently as women. And moreover, 70% of the suicides in the US are committed by middle-aged white men. Why is that interesting? Because that is the group that still holds the majority of the power in the world. And we would think, like, well, the group that has the most privilege, that has the most power, should have a better quality of life. But wait a minute, why are they taking their lives 4 times as frequently? Something's off there. If we look at the longevity numbers, women outlive men by 5 years in the US, by 7 years globally. Again, what's up with that? If men hold a majority of the power, shouldn't they have a better quality of life? And there's something off there. And I think that part of the reason that the system doesn't work is we've got this limited way of definition of what it means to be a man. And part of it is like, we walk around like these uncaring, unfeeling robots because we were trained since we were boys that little boys don't cry. Because in somebody's mind, the emotions are weakness. It's like, wait a minute, who made that up? The emotions are neither strength nor weakness. Emotions are neither good nor bad, depending on how we express them. They have a good or bad effect. But the emotions are just energies coursing through our body. What used to be spiritual teaching, that everything is energy, now we know from quantum physics that it's true. That means that this chair, the painting behind me, the table on which my computer sits, the body, the emotions, it's all energy, even though it might feel like solid. It's vibration. And we know from physics, energy cannot be destroyed. So all the time that we have stuffed our emotions, by the way, women do that too, men just do it a lot more because of that conditioning. But all those emotions that we suppress, that we don't allow ourselves to express, they don't disappear, they don't go away. They fester under the surface. And then we get into trouble with them. Because what happens is that we stuff them, and then the next unfortunate one just comes to us and rubs us the wrong way, says something to us the wrong way, boom, volcanic eruption, and we cause harm to our relationships, sometimes irreparably. Or that energy has to come out one way or the other. Suppress, and then those emotional energies start seeping out and showing up as physical symptoms in the body. Cancer, heart attacks, ulcers. And that to me is the part that relates to the longevity and issue, because the body's paying the price for it. So, and then the other price that we pay when we stuff our emotions is that we walk around with layers and layers and layers of suppressed emotions. And then here we are trying to have a relationship with another human being in the present, romantic or professional or whatever, and it's all getting filtered through that lifetime of suppressed emotions, which we then start projecting and throwing on each other's laps. It's like, yikes, I don't know how any relationships can work, because we haven't been taught how to hold them, how to approach them. And we certainly haven't been taught how to clear ourselves of this lifetime of suppressed emotions. So we gotta get this. We gotta heal our relationship to our emotions and realize that there is no weakness in expressing emotions. It's actually the other way around. If we learn what we're feeling, because if you asked me 30 years ago what I was feeling, I had no idea. I couldn't have told you that. So I've consciously done work to figure that out, to increase my EQ, my emotional intelligence, which, by the way, is not what is being taught as leadership qualities. It's the ability to understand our emotions and how to communicate them, not only courageously, but responsibly, like owning our role in it. And our taking responsibility for our emotions, because we don't want to walk around like a 2-year-old throwing a tantrum throughout life. We don't want to go through life like that. So learning what we're feeling, how to communicate it responsibly and gracefully, meaning in a way that the other person can hear it, is mastery level stuff. So the complete opposite of weakness.
What I'm hearing is communication. And that's true. We sometimes sabotage ourselves by holding in our power and not expressing ourselves and not communicating and not talking to others, even in, just like what you described, even in a corporate environment. Company CEOs sometimes have a very difficult time communicating their desires to their team. And so if you fail to communicate to your team, can you really truly blame them or blame the business for not succeeding when it wasn't communicated to them what the goal was, what the intentions were? I was just supposed to come in the door knowing what you expected. That's how you enter in your true power. What are some other actionable steps or practices that you recommend or that you teach to that people can take today on their journey to empowerment? What are some other tips and tricks that you?
All right, so here are a couple of really practical ones. One is we can't do anything about what we don't see, what we're not aware of. So one of the practices that I walk people through in the book is all right, what are the patterns? What are the triggers? When do you override your power? When do you give it away? When do you stuff yourself into smaller little package. So do you tend to do that in romantic, intimate, sexual relationships? Do you tend to do that like what we're talking about now with authority figures, like with bosses or religious leaders, ministers, coaches, that kind of thing, parental figures? Do we tend to do that more when like our survival level stuff, like our paycheck is at stake? So the only way we can do something about that is by first figuring out why we do the things we do. And that's what the book walks you through. A great practice is like I was just talking about, the way that I figured, like I started increasing my emotional intelligence was, like this is before iPhones, like, 30 years ago. I would have a timer. Now you can just put a timer on your phone, but I would carry it like a Radio Shack, like a timer. And then I would set it like every hour. And I did a little bit of research. I had a grid of emotions. So I figured out, right, this means that, this means that. And then on the hour, I'd go off and I'd pause whatever I was doing. And I'd ask myself, am I feeling that? Mm-hmm. Am I feeling that? Mm-mm. Am I feeling that? Maybe. Right. And by doing that, even just a couple of weeks, you increase your emotional intelligence tremendously. And it is, the stuff takes work. It takes a little bit of a time. It doesn't take that much time, but it takes attention. It takes the willingness to look at ourselves and ask ourselves why we do the things we do, rather than coasting through life like just buffeted by life's curveballs. And that's no way to live. That's kind of like a victim relationship to life. What we want to do is like step into our power, and we want to make choices rather than reacting to stuff that happened to us when we're 5 or it's 10 or 15 or blame stuff on the system, right? And I'm not rationalizing the system. The system is set up unfairly, but here's like a tough truth. If we're holding anybody outside of us, whether it's a person or the dad who left or mom who did this or the teacher or the minister or whatever, or if we're holding the system, the unfair system, responsible for our happiness, for our power, for our success, we just gave our power away because we're holding something or someone outside of us responsible for ourselves. And this is not easy, right? Because what we're basically saying is like, no matter what happened, and sometimes stuff happened that sucked and should have never happened to anybody, or no matter what happens going forward, we get to choose how we show up in response. And that simple reframe, Marcus, changes everything. Because, right, I'm so sorry that happened. I wish it hadn't happened. One thing we know for sure, life is going to continue throwing curveballs our way. That we can count on. So it's easy to go around feeling victimized by life, like feeling like completely helpless in like in a boat without a motor in the middle of the ocean. But by just that reframe, it's like, all right, no matter what happens, no matter what happened in the past, I get to choose who I am and how I respond to that. And that is incredibly empowering way to live.
Love it. The man, the myth, the legend, Christian de la Huerta, y'all. One more round of applause. Sir, you have dropped some incredible nuggets today, and thank you for this. This is huge and phenomenal. Are there anything that you want to put on the table? Anything that I should have asked you that I didn't ask you? Any final nuggets? You've shared a bunch of nuggets today that are helping me. These are helping me. He's speaking to me, y'all. Any final nuggets that you want to leave my audience?
Yeah, I'll just say it again in a different way. Like what we're talking about, Marc, takes work, and it takes courage to look inside and ask ourselves the hard questions. Why we do the things we do, to face our inner demons, our self-doubt, our fears, which we all have. And it's heroic work, right? Like one of the things that I think the pandemic has helped us in, without minimizing the tragedy of it and all the death and all the economic impact and all that kind of stuff. If we hold it in a certain way, and if we look like anything else with life, there's always a silver lining. So one of the silver linings that the pandemic has done is that it's expanded the way we think about what it means to be a hero. Because most of us have like rejected that word for ourselves. It's hard to think of ourselves as heroic. Because why? Because we tend to think of like a warrior or a first responder, somebody who places their lives at risk for the sake of somebody else or for something greater. The pandemic has forced us to expand that. So now we include our healthcare practitioners, our nurses, our doctors, our respiratory therapists, and we might even include our delivery people, our grocery store clerks, that made a lot of sacrifices to keep the rest of us healthy and alive. But what about the rest of us? And what I'm saying is that this way of living, which is like facing our inner demons and overcoming our fears, overcoming the crap that happened to us when we were kids, that is nothing short of heroic. So that yes, there is a hero right inside each one of us, and all it takes is the willingness to look at ourselves and ask those questions and make the choices from a place of consciousness rather than living our lives unconsciously because of what happened to us when we were kids and because of the way that the system is set up. So thank you again for this opportunity, and thank you for taking on this heroic way of living. Appreciate it.
My absolute pleasure. Sir, how can we contact you? How can we learn more? How can my audience connect and grow with you?
The book is available wherever books are sold. So you can get it at your local bookstore if you want to support them, or you can order it on Amazon. In terms of reaching me, probably the best way is my website, soulfulpower.com. And through there, they can access my social media. And for your audience, anybody who goes to soulfulpower.com and gets on my email list, and we know how easy it is to click unsubscribe if it doesn't work for you down the road. But anybody who gets on my email list, will send them a sample chapter of the book, and it's a chapter that talks about what it means to live heroically in the 21st century. We'll send them some of the power practices you and I were talking about, and we'll send them a recorded meditation, a guided meditation that I created in the middle of the pandemic to help us navigate these times of chaos and uncertainty and fear. Like, how do we maintain center? How do we be the eye of the storm in these uncertain times?
Sure. Wow, y'all. We getting nuggets today. We getting a treat only on the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. Sir, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for giving back in this way. It is an honor to have you today. This is incredible, and you are necessary. I want to say this to you publicly, sir. Don't ever quit. Don't ever give up, because we need what you're doing. We need this in order to really develop into our strength and really accomplish what we have been put on this earth to do. So thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. That means so much. That your words move me. Thank you.
Sir, absolutely. And thank you all, my audience, for tuning in to the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. I hope this message has served you, and I hope this helps take you to discovering your full potential and really develop and really grow in your power, because it is absolutely necessary, because it's already inside of you. And if you need help, if you need some guidance, you need a coach, connect with Mr. Christian de la Huerta and his team, and they'll help you get there. Thank you, sir. I hope this helps take you guys to the next level. Like I always end every show, take care of your friends, take care of your family, and always take care of business. This is Marcus Norman, your favorite gentleman, and Mr. Christian de la Huerta signing off. We love you guys. Bye.